the factors that make up good team dynamics are actually the same. So what we need to do as project managers and leaders to create the best team are the same. However, when environments change, as they do at the moment, there's more remote work, there's less face-to-face time, managers and leaders need to work harder to create that great team. And I also think what's happening when we look at people working more remotely, there's much more pressure on teams. I think our interactions become much more transactional. We need to make a lot of extra effort as managers and leaders to make sure that we open up, to make sure we connect with each other, to make sure we get to know each other, all the things that really bond the team and build trust. So it's the same stuff that needs to happen, and we can absolutely do it in light of teams working more remotely, and in light of us working with cross-cultural teams across time zones, but it requires more deliberate effort. When we step forward and become leaders, it really requires us to want to be seen as well. I think it's a bigger job. I think we can't hide when we're leaders. I would still argue that some project managers hide a little bit behind the tasks or the screen. They're still doing great jobs. But when we're a leader, we really stand up and we say, it's this direction we're going in. It's going to be inspiring. And we're leading from the front as well as leading from behind. And I think when somebody's a junior project manager, there's more than enough to understand in the transactional project management, the tools and the techniques, and that's already a tall order. Then as we begin to mature, I think more and more, perhaps, hopefully, aspire to become leaders as well, which is much more putting themselves into the job and using a lot of emotional intelligence. The first one, be authentic, is quite foundational. It's really about my attitude as a leader, because leadership is so much about building trust, having integrity. So if I work with a manager, let's say, who has a lot of self-interest, that manager will never become a good leader. We don't trust people who come with self-interest, because imagine somebody saying one thing and they're doing another thing. That person we can't really trust. So my definition of being authentic is that as a leader, what we think and feel is in alignment with what we say and do. That I can trust. That is somebody who I want to follow. The second key is to lead with vision. And as project leaders, we sometimes need to lead from the front and sometimes we need to lead from behind. This key is all about leading from the front. It is really oftentimes this archetypical leader, is somebody who understands the vision. They can inspire the team and say, it's this direction that we're going in. And they really focus on why the project is important. I see many junior project managers, they focus on what we need to deliver. And they really focus on getting the team to deliver task by task. But asking the question, why are we doing it? Or does this project make sense? Is not what they're concerned with. But that is a leadership trait. Leaders don't just stop with, yes, we're delivering what's on the plan. Leaders continue, and they have a much broader horizon. So I normally say, as a leader, as a project leader, we have one step, one foot with the team and another foot with the sponsor or the senior manager or the client. So the project leader needs to embed and embody the vision. So that leads us to the third key. Improve and innovate. And improve and innovate is not what we often think about with project management, because project management is about executing to a plan, right? But leaders think differently. Now, if we want our teams to be innovative, that's very, very, very hard, if not impossible, when every day I have an agenda, a very, very tight agenda, and I'm already late, because that means I work under pressure all the time. So this key, improving and innovating, is really about how do we create some space? How do we open up the domain so that the teams can think differently? They can cross-pollinate, use some ideas from different industries. They can learn from people they don't normally learn from, because that's when our innovative ideas come. How can we create pockets of time where we can play or experiment? Then we have key number 4. which is empower the team. And empowering the team is really the essence. It's such a foundational part of project leadership. When we lead with vision, we lead from the front. However, this key is all about leading from behind. It's about taking that step back as a leader and enabling the team to think for themselves, to make decisions. And to do that, we need to ask questions, we need to coach, we need to create this space. I see many project managers who are focused only on their teams. Of course, we need to be focused on our immediate teams and building trust and high performance. But we must never and can never forget about our stakeholders. Our stakeholders are really our clients. They have requirements for the project. So this key is all about understanding how to communicate effectively with all of these clients, whether they be internal or external. Asking our stakeholders, how would you like me to communicate with you? How would you like me to escalate issues? They're very important questions. And also, this key is about building up a trust balance. If a client never hears from you, if you're not proactive with your client and one day you make a mistake, it doesn't look good. It's going to hamper your relationships. But if day by day you build up on that, you deposit into your trust account because you're proactive, you inform your client, you build good relationships, then the day you make a mistake, you can afford to make that mistake because there's a big enough deposit on the trust account for there to be a small withdrawal. One of my colleagues used to say, we need to have just enough process, and I would agree. There is no good project without risk management, without planning, without scope definition, without project definition. What is it we're about to deliver? What are the risks? How can we overcome them? Who does what, etc. It's absolutely foundational. And I do not want us to lose sight of these foundational techniques. The last key number 7, is how to lead, how to work with intent. How to work with intent. And this is about how, as a project manager and leader, I apply myself. So am I being proactive? Do I procrastinate? Do I work myself to death? Do I overwork? So there's a lot of time management and there's a lot of stress management in that key. So every single hard skills in project management has a wrapper of soft skills. And as we mature in our project management skills, we are able to look up and broaden our horizon and begin to communicate more with people. And I would say, ideally, we get to a place where it's 20% hard skills, perhaps, and 80% soft skills. It's not a rule of thumb or an absolute correct number, but I just want to give people this kind of impression. The soft skills in leadership are, I would say, more important because also as we become more senior, we cannot delegate the soft skills. We cannot delegate having the challenging conversations, holding somebody to account, inspiring the team, listening to their concerns. We can't delegate that, but we can delegate creating a plan or keeping track of the scope, for instance. So that's also why I would say that the hard skills are, all in all, take up less of a proportion of our time. As people, we are wired for certainty. We want to know that we have a job. We want to know that what we're delivering adds value. It's how we are wired because of survival. We like predictability. Okay, we like change a little bit, but by and large, we like predictability. And the same goes for project work or for operating in the world. So project leaders need to be aware of this, and good leaders are aware of it. And it means that, again, we need to employ our emotional intelligence and this detector for how is my team feeling. If there's too much uncertainty, my team will go into fight or flight. They will go into a narrow focus. They may be less innovative. They may just feel tense and stressed. So I need to create a dialogue with my team. If it becomes too much, what can we do to ease that? So the skills that I need to use as a leader is creating dialogue, asking questions, listening between the lines. And when we can create more certainty, that is, of course, a good thing. I always make a point to people, look after yourself, because when you burn out, it's no good. It doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't serve you, doesn't serve your family, doesn't serve your client, doesn't serve your team, doesn't serve anyone. We all have a responsibility to look after ourselves. And I think as a project leader, we need to set a good example. We probably all know some managers who work extremely long hours, who are extremely tense, they're under pressure, and you feel the pressure from them. What example does that set for the rest of the team? I don't think it's very positive. When your manager answers emails round the clock, it also, I think, puts an expectation that the rest of the team does that. So as leaders, we have a huge responsibility, not just to ourselves, but to our teams, and also picking up on what's going on for our teams. Are we allowing them? Are we giving them space and saying, it's okay, switch off your computer and go home? Sometimes we need that permission from our managers. Well, we've mentioned emotional intelligence a lot, and it is really one of the differentiators between an average project manager and an excellent project leader. So my advice is to begin to build that. But how do we do that? Well, it all starts with self-awareness and with reflection and looking inwards, actually. The most difficult person you'll ever get to lead is yourself. So very specifically, I would recommend those listening to take out time every week or every 2 weeks to reflect. And the purpose is not to blame ourselves or to find fault. The purpose is insight. The purpose is awareness, building our awareness and also perspective, because as a leader, we are the ones to come with perspective. For instance, if our team is incredibly stressed out, we can bring that perspective. We can take a time out for the team and say, let's sit down and discuss what's going on. How can we work more effectively? So that's what I would recommend, is taking time out to reflect, ask yourself questions. And for those who want to go a step further, it is also about asking for feedback. It's one of the best practices for leaders, and it builds leaders. Some people hold themselves back asking for feedback because it can appear to be scary. I make myself vulnerable and I open myself up for criticism. Why would I do that? Because, number one, you might be told something that you are doing really well that you're not aware of. So you might actually get some positive feedback. And in terms of constructive feedback, well, would you not rather know it? Would you not rather be told so you can do something about it rather than trying to turn a blind eye? So there are some really good practices that anyone can do. There should be no excuse. So yeah, that's what I would want for everybody.